I hear Barb and Dan tell a lot of stories about fire and earth, the wind, and so I'll tell you a little thing that happened to me when I first. Uh, I think it was like February 11th, 2009. I uh, I went for a walk one day. I went to go visit a friend, and it was about on a Sunday about five o'clock in the evening on a Sunday, nice and sunny. And I walked into my friend's house and I play guitar. So I jammed a little bit, a couple songs, but I didn't feel right and I didn't want to play. So I sat down and while I was sitting there, I said, my friend asked me, he says, "What's wrong with you?" He says, "We don't want to play." I said, "I don't know, I don't feel right." I felt like I don't know, shaky or something. And so and so he says, "Hey, you know what? I got to tell you something." He says, "This happened to me last week." He says, "I had a spiritual awakening, and uh, and I'm going to tell you about it. Sit down here." So I sat down, and I said, "Okay." So I sat down, and then he says, "I was okay. I'll tell you." So I got ready. And it's sun shining in the front window and everything. So we sat down there, and he says, "I was sitting at my front window." He says, "I was just looking out." He says, "The wind started picking up and started getting windy. I was watching the snowflakes." He said they were falling lightly. They started blowing a little harder and a little harder and harder. And started getting windier and windier and windier. The stars in the sky and it started getting blacker and darker. And then it started lightning and thundering and then fire started coming. He said, "Holy smokes!" He says, "I think it's the end of the world. If the if I'm gonna die, I wanna be with my family." So he got on the phone. He called up his girlfriend who lived down the road, and his daughter had a place down the road. He called him up and he said, told him, "Get over here, drop what you're doing, just get over here." And they were trying to ask him, what? But he said, "Just drop what you're doing, get over here." And so they started coming. And as this was all happening, when he was telling me, I was sitting there, and when he first started his story, it was like I couldn't move no more. I just like I didn't try to move, but I wanted to hear his story, and I felt a whirlwind come whipping up and start getting louder. And now I understand what it means now, like in Acts 2, it's the wind filled up the whole room and sounded like a thundering roar of a waterfall, and it just came racing. And I see that whirlwind came racing at me. I just went, and I filled up with air, and I felt like all of that was trying to squeeze through a pinhole in my heart, and I sat there, and it was like I stepped out of this world into another world. As he was telling me, it's just like, and I could hear him perfectly, but he says, "You okay? You okay?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "I'm okay," and I felt that it was trying to squeeze in me, and I felt that pipe when he was sitting in front of me, and I could feel it come around this way, come right into me. I said, he says, "You okay?" I said, "Just hurry up your story, hurry up, hurry up." I wanted him to hurry up his story, but he didn't want me to miss any of it, so he didn't hurry up at all. But I was sitting there, and I could feel this, and all of a sudden, I felt a million people cry out when all that wind and thunder and lightning was happening, and I felt a million people crying. I just went, "Ah!" And leaned down and I just started pouring tears out. "Ah!" I, I was yelling. I wanted to yell, but I was frozen in every way. I thought about my children and everything. And I wanted to jump up and run, but I just sat there and I knew I was still sitting in front of him. He was telling me a story, and I was gonna jump up and run, but I couldn't anyways. I just and I and so anyways, back to his when he was talking, he says his girlfriend and his daughter came running in. They came running in the house, And he was running back and forth at the window, and there was fire, lightning, fire coming down. And he says all the trees leaned down one direction, and it was blowing so hard, and I could feel this terror, this just absolute terror running through my whole body, and that wind was coming through me, and I just then they finally got there. They lived about 2 minutes away, and they came running in the door. And this didn't actually happen. Uh, this happened a week before. What the story that he's telling me happened a week for him, a week earlier, and so he was telling me a week later. And when he said, "Sit down, and I'll tell you this story," so I was sitting there, and he's telling me this already had happened for him. As he was standing around, he was telling me what happened to him. And I came in, and he's telling me the same story. And I was sitting there, and this started happening for me. And so they came running in, but they didn't come in for me because this has happened a week later. They came running in, and when they came running in, and he told me, he says, and then my girlfriend and my daughter came running, and they running in, and it, it just stopped. It went back to clear sunshine again. And then when he told me that it was clear sunshine again, I just I could finally it stopped. And they came running in, looking at, "What? Are you okay? What's the matter with you?" And they were telling him, "You okay?" And it was back sunny. And they were laughing at him and everything. He says, "Well, can't you see what's happening outside?" And they're laughing at him. Then he finally snapped out of it. He says, and they started laughing. He says, "There's nothing. What's wrong? What's wrong with you?" And they didn't know. It didn't happen for them, but it just happened for me and him when he was telling me. And for me, it just ended, stopped like that. I could finally catch my breath because it all stopped, and that wind, that it was like a whirlwind just came racing at me and just let me go. I could finally catch my breath. I said, "How come you didn't hurry up your story?" I said, "Because couldn't you see me?" I said, "That was on for me. Whatever you told me that story," I said, "it was on. It was powerful. It was racing through me, and I was trying to. I couldn't do anything." And for about 4 or 5 minutes, how long it ever took him to tell me the story, I felt absolute terror. I felt the end of the world, and I felt it all. And I felt a million people cry out in a split second like that. And where I was sitting, when they came running in and it all stopped, I felt see Jesus in my mind. He came over the cliff where I live here. There's a cliff. Came over so fast, and he just stopped the vision like that, that's when I could catch my breath. And I was like, "Okay." And then they said, "Now what?" I said, "All I can feel is love." I was just red hot from that wind going through me. Love, start living and loving like it was your last days, and because I think one day it will be, and that's just and then I waited for about a minute. I said, "I'm just gonna sit here. I don't even realize what had happened. I'm gonna sit here for an hour." And I was like, "Holy man, I don't even know what to do now. I'm gonna sit here for an hour." So I sat there, and I said, "Okay." I sat there for an hour, and I said, "I'm going home." We started talking to each other. He says, "What are you? Are you a medicine man or something?" I said, "No, I'm just me." He said, "Remember we used to party together? I'm just me." But I am just me. It all just happened just so fast. And I went home, and the next morning I woke up, and I opened up my I guess this would be my confirmation, because I woke up to John 16, 17, 18, and I read that, and I tried to read that, and there just happened to be a pocket Bible laying around at my parents' place, and so I picked it up and I just started reading it, I couldn't even read it. I closed it because just tears started coming out. I started crying, and I put it down. I said, "What the heck?" And so I picked it up again. I looked at it again. I started reading, and I was like, "Holy man!" I closed it again. I said, "I can't even read that." And my mom was sitting around there, and I said, "Mom, can you read this to me?" And I showed her. It was about where he has to send you he's going to send you a helper, and us a helper, and I can't tell you anymore because you won't be able to bear it. And I, I I asked her to read that, and she read it to me, because I couldn't read it, if I tried to read it, I just started crying, and that was my confirmation what had happened to me, and that's basically what my vision was all about, and it was all so real. Uh, there's probably more to it, and I missed a lot of little parts, but I'm trying to keep it under 10 minutes. Anyways, thanks.